Now, if you're a young athlete, a lot of it contextually can be how your parents brought you up. If you've constantly been told, that's just not good enough, you need to do better. Well, no shit. Of course, I realize I need to do better. It's not as if I wasn't trying. So this young person's now intuition is now based on misinformation. Their intuition foundation is the fact that A, they're not good enough, but they don't have the awareness to realize the person that's telling them that has no clue what they're talking about. Telling somebody what they have to do all the time is not the solution. Understanding the how and the why.
Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Beitz. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons. Our guest today, Gary Wise, brings over 35 years of coaching around the globe, helping golfers at every level, from complete beginners to PGA Tour major champions. But Gary's expertise goes far beyond golf. He's trained candidates for physical abilities tests across the military, emergency services, and law enforcement, and has coached athletes in a wide range of sports, including baseball, rowing, surf sports, combat sports, and tennis. Gary's also the creator of the Adaptive Performance State, or APS, a cognitive behavioral framework designed to enhance decision-making and optimize performance through emotional and mental regulation. He also served as the team captain of the USA surfboat team for 12 years, leading them to multiple podium finishes at world championships, and has consistently placed first in elite open water paddling events both in the US and internationally. Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, mate. Doug, appreciate it.
Good. And mate, I'm wondering, you're in Florida, I'm in Australia, but originally you were in Australia. How did you end up, spending the last 35 years in America?
Yeah, as a young athlete back home and competing in multiple sports through high school, or primary school, high school, and then later on as a professional in the early 80s, the chasing the carrot. The carrot led, tends to always lead. Obviously Australia is a great breeding ground for sport. Our systems are so brilliant. But yeah, we, as a young athlete, chasing the carrot to America to compete, to a life as a professional athlete, and just one thing led to another. Stayed on over here, got married, had children, the responsibility, raised my kids here. They were born in Florida. My oldest couldn't, once he got a taste of being an Aussie, couldn't get back to Australia quick enough after graduating high school. So he's been over there for 10 years. And so it's just Florida has been, for golf, tends to be always somewhat of an epicenter. So yeah, for this last chapter of coaching juniors, I've been based here in Central Florida at the International Junior Golf Academy, coaching there, and it's just, it always seems to, so much of sport comes through here.
Yeah, and I know, back, we're very similar in age, and I know back in those younger years like that, we always did look to America as the pinnacle of, sporting or any type of profession. If you could move to the States and make it big there, you'd really made it big time. Like we sent Paul Hogan and others like that over there, and they did their thing. And I guess the fact that you've been able to head there and do your thing for 35 years successfully says a lot.
Yeah, it's a different culture. It's interesting. Like you said, it starts with chasing the carrot, and that's obviously you win an Aussie titles or a couple of Aussie titles or whatever. And for me, golf, we all at the time in the early 80s, Greg Norman was, had risen to the top. He was at like 300 something weeks at number one in the world. And I think, then players like Peter Lonard, who I went through my time with in Australia as a young assistant professional. Peter started to play. Some of them went through the Asian route. I spent time over there. Mine was never. I realized early, my golf playing wasn't going to afford me a very good living. So and somehow managed to stumble on this long drive thing. So I mean, I found I could make a living, and I was paid by sponsors to hit the little white thing hard and keep people amused. So that's how it started. It came over, and then one particular year, in the transition from wooden clubs, wooden drivers to steel, and then onto titanium. I had one particular year. I think I broke 40 something driver heads doing the long drive stuff, and I remember Tom Crow from Cobra, based over in California, and Tom he was an Aussie, and he'd send me some clubs, and it just became you sort of morphed into the American way, and being a lefty and an Aussie, and I was, there was no other lefties on the World Long Drive Tour at the time, and the only Aussie, and it was sort of like the novelty factor. And again, you're making a living, and then you start to understand equipment. And I always loved the training side of it, the strength and conditioning and the fitness. And just around the late 80s, early 90s, that was becoming part of golf, professional culture. As part the tour culture was up until then had been, a couple of beers and a ciggy, and off you go. And then it started to change. Strength and conditioning became, a golf thing. And I just happened to also be out there doing equipment stuff, working, and as an Aussie surfboat rower, and I'd lost that ability to every summer to jump in a surfboat and row, but I could still row a concept. At the time, apparently, I didn't realize as good as anybody, because I set a world record then, and then concept said, "Oh, we're going to put some rowing machines out on tour in the tour vans." The next thing you know, that's a thing. So it's just like one thing leads to another, and then really became fascinated with performance around that time. It was just you're working out there as out on around tour players, and then you really start to pay attention to what are the factors that are influencing performance. Obviously, skill is one. Skill is probably the cornerstone, and then you've got strength and conditioning starting up. And then also all of a sudden this new thing that the sports psychology, and then that becomes very apparent, because then you can also reflect on yourself. From my own situation, I attribute the fact that I didn't have tour quality golf. 90% of it was, I found out later, was mental. I just made bad decisions.
Yeah, I know. I'm an ex-professional firefighter, and I joined over 40 years ago. And when I first joined the fire service, there was two guys who'd been there a few years longer than me, and we used to, once a month, we had our own little fire service golf club. And the guys, I never went, but the guys would go out and play golf. And these two guys played off scratch, and they. A couple of times I'd be on shift with them and start talking about stuff with golf, and they were grumpy. Like, they were angry young men, because you mentioned Greg Norman earlier. I don't know if it's true or not, but they were telling the story over 40 years ago that they were on tour with Greg when Greg was nobody, and they were all starving for a living. And they would, at the end, on the Sunday evening, at wherever they were, the tournament had finished.
Yep.
They would go to the big buffet dinner, and they'd not only just consume a lot of food, they would also be making doggy bags, and to feed themselves for the next couple of days till they drove to the next tournament. These guys were living off the smell of an oily rag. But they were grumpy that for whatever reason Greg Norman made it and they didn't, because they sort of claimed that in their teenage years they were as at least as good as he was. But like you say, mentally something different changed.
And that is, and I can 100% relate to them. I've had to drive up from Sydney as a young assistant pro, and my first boss, John Kelly, he gave me some great advice. Jeff Scott and John Kelly had sort of taken me under their wings because I didn't have junior golf. It was not something. I had played spotty junior golf, little bits here and there, but it wasn't something. Quite honestly, 5 hours, if there was a decent surf, I'm going surfing. It was just that simple. This is no way I can play golf and look out at the water and there'd be a surf. So my first, block was the fact that I was so easily distracted by other things. Now I coach kids to not be distracted by the perceptions of social media. It's a different, but it's still, it falls under the same umbrella. But no, I've driven up, and as much as they had said, you will play harder and you will play with more depth if you're playing in somewhat of a survival mode. Now, I've had to make a check in Queensland to basically get home, drive back to Sydney. So I understand exactly where they're coming from. I remember Greg came down as a high school kid in Ballina, where I went to high school, and yes, I could play golf apparently at the time, but I think he was like around 18, just before he won his first professional tournament down in South Australia, and yeah, there was probably 30 guys who were in that same traveling group. He was a young assistant. I believe his mum was at a club in Queensland as an administrator or an office bearer. And so, yeah, there was probably 30 people. Even in the little town of Ballina, there was a guy I remember there as an athlete. And I think I played 5 sports or 6 sports or so. And this guy could beat me at everything, at absolutely everything. Running, swimming, track and field, golf, tennis, whatever. I mean, he could whoop my ass at everything. And I never knew ultimately what happened, because I left Ballina the moment that I graduated high school, went back to Sydney, where I had Northern Beaches, Sydney, where I'd originated from. And from there, and I guess stuck to my own course, which at the time was focused around personal training, and I just always loved the strength and conditioning side of it, and competing in as many sports as I could. And then golf just presented itself as as another challenge, and so yeah, there's so many people. Yeah, So yeah, Greg had the talent, and also had the fortune, the good fortune for things fell his way. But there's a lot of those in the world out there. There's so much talent out there, and just because you're talented, there's a great book, The Talent Code. Just because you're talented doesn't gift you anything. In actual fact, being talented can also lead to you're just not having an awareness of the other competencies required.
Yeah, I know at primary school or elementary school, as the US would say, and high school, one of my best mates, he was always the state high jump champion. And do you know how much he trained? He would start practicing the afternoon before the event. He never trained. He had so much physical ability. And they were lining him up to go in the 1982 Commonwealth Games, which were, I'm trying to think where they even were. They might have been in Australia. But his parents decided that, it was like a dog eat dog sort of sport, that you'd get hate mail in your letterbox and all sorts of, if you were better than the other kids. And so his parents sort of said no. But they were saying, like, if you actually train, you will win the Commonwealth Games, but yeah, natural ability was ridiculous, for zero training. And he was always the state champion from the time he was about 11 or 12 till he finished high school with zero training. So yeah, like you say, plenty of, but there could be someone else who had 30% of his ability, but trained and had mindset, and may have gone on to be the champion. Guys, if you're on a path of developing your intuition, and I know you are, that's why you're listening here, then the Neurovisor is a tool worth checking out. It uses light and sound to guide your brain into deeper states of awareness, helping you quiet the noise, tap into your inner knowing, and strengthen your intuitive muscle. And who doesn't want that? There's no pills, no fluff, just 11 minutes a day to reset your mind and reconnect with your instincts. I've bought myself one last Christmas and I've added it to my daily practice, and the shifts are real. This is not a paid ad, but if you use the link in the show notes for more information, I do receive a small percentage of the purchase price. I highly recommend you check it out.
Look, the road out there is hard. I had the recent experience of my mum passed in COVID down in Tassie. I had the recent experience of, and I couldn't go down there during that period, obviously, from here, of unpacking some of the postcards I'd sent from the 80s, from all over the place, to my parents. She kept them, and I read the postcards, and the theme was so consistent of, and I wouldn't have remembered it because I've had a lot of concussions, so I don't tend to remember. My jigsaw puzzle of life is missing a few pieces. so reading them was eye-opening, and that the constant theme was another hotel. Here I am, another empty hotel room, life on the road. Everybody thinks so glamorous and whatever, but I don't remember it as being lonely and hard. And, today we have, if I have last week I was at World Juniors in San Diego. Okay. My flight schedule is easy. Pick up, rental car. I've got my phone, so I got my GPS. I know where the hotel is. I know where, everything's laid out for us. One thing I keep for fun is my original Rand McNally book over here of how I found my way around America. I would fly into a town and I'd pull I knew where I had to go. I'd pull the facts out, and then I'd have to look on the map and then take a standard piece of paper or a notepad and write all my turns, approximately 57 miles on highway, north on Highway 75 till I reach Highway 10. Turn left at Highway 10, go 286 miles past Pensacola to whatever, to Louisiana, and then exit, and then you'd have to try and find out which exit it is. That was the way we had to do things. That was the way life was. And
I know my kids can't comprehend how we did that.
There was just no other way. So yeah, I've missed states. I've missed turns and found myself in the next state. I was talking to a kid about it recently. I believe I was heading from Illinois to Wisconsin. I missed the border. It's stormy, it's rainy, it's nasty, and then I didn't want to turn around and go back. I just checked into back then the hotels were like $25 a night. Checked into a hotel. I'll just deal with it in the morning. Get a wake up call, set the alarm. I got no phone. I can't tell anybody. I can't call anybody. I just grab a hamburger, a beer, and sit and get a good night's sleep, and then turn around and go back and find my place in the morning. Yep, it's just exactly. It was a different time. Yeah, and we immersed ourselves in the we were always in the present. There wasn't a you're chasing the rainbow, or you're dwelling on the past. No, you're so busy in the moment.
Yep.
And you don't think about it. So yeah, looking at those postcards from 40 years ago, it was eye-opening. But yeah, would I have changed anything? I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been a year on the road that I haven't missed home.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate to go home, most years. And as you know, I spent a few weeks down in Mollymook, with our mate Phil, in June. It was I just can't express. There's no words how relaxing and how enjoyable and how at home it was. It was so good.
So that was
But yeah,
home for you?
No, I actually hadn't been to Mollymook since the 70s, or maybe
right.
the 80s. I used to love going down there, down the south coast from the northern beaches of Sydney for surf weekends, or up the coast, camp on the beach, those type of things. My oldest and I spent the first week at Crescent Head. He wanted, he's immersed himself in the Aussie life. He's has a good job on the northern beaches, and just loves traveling, climbing, surfing. And so nice. It was just an opportunity to come home and just unwind.
Yeah, nice. All right. So getting into intuition, of all the, thousands of athletes you've coached, what's the most common block that you think would keep men from trusting their intuition, like when they're in a high stake moment, like the golfing and like they're on the second last hole and it's really tight, and some of the guys are going to come home strong and some of them aren't, and at the end they're gonna say, I knew I should have putted that differently, or whatever. What do you think causes those blocks, or whatever you want to call them?
I think when it comes to decision making, taking a moment in time to look at the source of the information. In your present moment, whether it be the intention to play a hole a certain way, whether it be the intention to perform, make a decision, a high stakes decision like a rescue a certain way, whether it's a young athlete preparing themselves for a physical abilities test and knowing that their splits are a certain time, and you have that, whether you call it a gut feeling, whatever, it's having, do I have an experience at this moment? What's my experience, in this moment, in the past? Where am I drawing my information from? What is coming to the forefront right now? So let's say for a elite level golfer, you've done a practice round, you've got your yardage book, you have a plan, and most, this is obviously not most club golfers, because most club golfers know their course and whatever, and it's a shot here in a Stableford event is not going to change their life, but a 49-year-old banker who's taken time off work to prepare for the senior tour, for example, that's a whole different game. That's not your weekend Stableford or your Wednesday afternoon men's comp. This is now his business. So it's the balance between a business decision being made by intuition or by being a cognitive thought that is planned out, a strategic plan. So you're firstly framing it contextually. What is the frame of the moment, and who is the person? Is the person the type of personality that makes a decision and is good with that decision? A person who's a dominant, a tiger type person, makes a decision, and for better or worse, he's good with it. He lives with it. Tiger's highlight reel isn't of perfect shots played from the middle of the fairway. Tiger's life highlight reel is bordering on the edge of just he lives on the edge of disaster and then finds a way to pull it off. So there is a person that trusts his intuition. Then you've got somebody whose mindset's based on consistency, who's a steady person by nature. They're not going to go. They're going to stay back from the edge a little bit. They're going to lean towards more of a strategic plan. You can take that to bike racing. Look at Tour de France. You get some guys who are willing to go out there and expose themselves, be out there, make the break. That's more DNA. So intuition is in my opinion, is a blend of DNA and experiences. If you've gone out and made that break 10 times and failed 10 times, you're probably not going to give it a crack. You're probably just going to draft for as long as you can and conserve, and then and throw it, just let it all loose at the end. Mm-hmm. But if you've got no experience at it and you have a wild hair and you're of that nature, then you may give it a crack. But one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to win or you're going to learn, or you win and you're going to not learn. So the goal is if you lean towards or lean into the intuition and either learn from it or take the glory, but recognize, the number one thing is to recognize that if you are in uncharted territory, and some people have to, there's times where you just have to, like, especially those who respond in emergency services. There are times where, in your realm of firefighters, there's those that run away from a burning building and those that run into it. And there's those that run into it knowing that there's a standard operating procedure, but you know what? I'm going in anyway. Yep. It's same with ocean rescue. Same with law enforcement. There's many contributing factors, but I think in general life, most intuition is predicated on experiences and our relationship with those experiences. For most, if you've been through a bad relationship and somebody has on the other side has done the wrong thing, then that alarm is going to be more hyperactive in you. If you're a young athlete, that's a life situation. As a young athlete, if a lot of it contextually can be how your parents brought you up. If you've constantly been told that's just not good enough, you need to do better. Well, no shit. Of course, I realize I need to do better. It's not as if I wasn't trying. There's, again, it can be based. So this young person's now intuition is now based on misinformation. Their intuition foundation is the fact that A, they're not good enough, but they don't have the awareness to realize the person that's telling them that has no clue what they're talking about. Mm. Telling somebody what they have to do all the time is not the solution. Understanding the how and the why is infinitely more beneficial. And if you're basing your intuition on your life of failures, see how the cycle repeats itself?
Yeah.
You go to a junior golf tournament, Little League, Pop Warner football over here. There is a whole sideline full of experts. I didn't realize there were so many sports psychologists in sport. I mean, hit the ball, little Johnny. I told you to hit the ball. No shit, Dad. What do you think I'm doing? I'm trying. Stop projecting that your inadequacies. Yeah, I know you were a high school superstar in your mind, but little Johnny's out here sweating his little butt off, trying his hardest. No, bottom line is I don't think there is any structure or foundation for yes, there's theories, but the reality is we all are a product of our environment, our nature, our nurture, and our input. And as we get to our stage, my openness to learning and listening now compared to when I was the age of the kids I coach, I couldn't think of anything worse than coaching the little prick that I was. Honestly, I mean, I must have been a nightmare because, I'm full awareness that I probably wasn't a good listener. I probably, fortunately, that's one of the life jigsaw puzzles that I conveniently lost. So all I can do now is base my model of coaching on my experiences, and I did so many things wrong.
I'm curious now. You're talking about teaching little Johnny, etc. When we last spoke in the men's group, you were talking about a young teenage female student you had. So I'm curious now. I want to just try and get if you recognized anything like this before when you're teaching these elite athletes about controlling their emotions, or they're tapping into flow states, tapping into their intuition. Do you notice any difference between male and female students with abilities to do these things or inabilities?
Quite honestly, there is no better at from either sexes. There's no one better at adjusting, better at awareness, better at it. It's an individual thing. I mean, I've got young female athletes who are just as hard and as focused as anybody, as period. No, I'm if you like you say, let's the starting point being recognition. Just like, no, I mean, there's young girls wanting to play sport against boys, to test their own mettle. There's young people tarnished with all brushes. Young girls that are as tough as nails. Young boys that are soft as souffle. Actually, honestly, it's a great question, but no. Now, I mean, I've got there's the influence, the parental influence, are girls more emotional than boys? I'm not even going to say yes to that, because anger is an emotion, sadness is an emotion. So, I mean, no, I think young humans in general now have the ability to draw, obviously, information from so many sources. I'm not a social media person. I think I know everybody on my social media. In my social, I think I know them. I basically, or met them at a race or an event or whatever, and actually talked to them. So, yeah. I may not remember them, but today, if I have a young student that I don't know particularly well, their perception of me could be straight to what does old bad Santa know? He doesn't know. He don't know shit. I mean, he's going to be hard on me. He doesn't know me, and that's 100% true. But you know what? This person on Instagram has 900,000 followers, and he did a 6-week course and has a certificate. They don't know that, and they don't know the experience, but he's at 900,000 followers, and boy, he posted something with a pretty, with a emoji or whatever those things are called, and there's a picture of a famous singer. Oh, I'll follow that person. So it's interesting, the source and taking that time to recognize. So I came up with a very simple foundation for my principles. That it's basically it's 5 words, and recognize, identify, align, transfer, and accept. They're 5 very simple words. Recognize what's important in the moment. Identify a course of action, a priority, a solution. Align that with the moment. Align that with either your values. Align that with either your strategy that you'll practice around. If you're a surf athlete, the day before the event, you look where the rips are. You looked where the waves are breaking. You looked at the depth of the sandbar. At high tide, low tide, you have the time of the race. So you align with factors that are going to help you, not hurt you, and then the transfer is simply transferring that from a cognitive, from the present mind, from an intention via an adaptive process, because this is nothing but an adaptive process, to an action. And then that action, then drawing from what we call your procedural memory, what you're working on now cognitively in your prefrontal cortex, and drawing from your memories. Intuition, like we talked about, is part of that memory process. But I feel like I could do this. All right, am I better off thinking or feeling? So that transfer now is transferring an intention to an action. And then last of all is acceptance. I have a belief that every action is the right action, correct action for the process. Every action, every outcome is the correct outcome for the process applied. Very simple. So you go back to the US Open, JJ Spawn, 7th hole, hits the flag, comes all the way back down the fairway. All the naysayers and the doomsdayers are going, that's it, he's done, spit his dummy. Go back to the tournament that he'd blown a few months before at TPC, lost a playoff. He's done, it's all over. But yet he stayed present, didn't let that, or the fact that he'd been up at 3 a.m. Off to CVS to get some medical supplies for his young one. Didn't let that, and he just stayed present and put one foot in front of the other and won the US Open. So we don't know. So for me, every outcome is the correct outcome for the process applied is simply a matter of acceptance. We have to accept that it doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean it's fair. Plenty of perfect golf shots have hit the flag and gone in the water. His went down the bank, 40 yards away. Just chipped it up. I don't even remember if he made the putt. Didn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, his brainwave activity stayed fairly constant. His, stress level, he handled it, and he went on to win.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
That could have been the outcome, or he didn't, but he did.
Yeah. I'm curious. I haven't read anything in your bio stuff on that, but I'm just curious. Do you ever meditate at all?
Yes,
Okay.
every day,
Right. Okay.
every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have my sleep struggles because my neck vertebrae being replaced with titanium, my shoulders. I've had post concussion syndrome from a lot of concussions, so I have many TBAs, traumatic brain injuries, from football and banging my heads on sandbars, hitting surfboard. So I struggle with sleep and pain management. So I struggled for a long time. I spent many years. Hydrocodone was the answer,
Mm.
um, and um, through life experience and learning, I now get up at most nights. I have a sleep routine. Lights are off at a certain time. Listen to music, some quiet music, type music, and just turn off everything mentally. But I've always from decades struggled with sleep. But now I have a wearable as well that say I wake up, whether it be 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. It's usually never after 3:30. It's never been after 3:30. I have a routine. Firstly, I also learned that some cultures actually sleep in two sets of, they get up during the night and actually have a meal, and then they
Mm.
go back to sleep again. So once I accepted that, okay, I'm not the only person on the planet. It used to be torture for me. It was the darkest of times. That 3, 4 in the morning, and then at 4, I just get up and start training. And that's just where that habit came from, because basically it was just such a dark place. So no, I now get up. I make myself a little meditative tea, and then no lights. Put the Muse sound back on, and just start with a little box breathing. Little 4-4-4 breathing. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. Just start a little bit of that, all nose breathing. And then the sounds of the sounds of the background, the white noise, if you want to call it, or muse, whatever, has significance to me. It's a very interesting sound that I remember a particular night I slept really well. I was in Puerto Rico, and the sound of the Puerto Rican cockies, the little frogs up in the rainforest. And I remember laying there at the time, and you could hear the dogs barking in the distance. And I remember trying to estimate, oh, well, that one's a quarter of a mile away, half a mile away. And for whatever reason, I found this sound, and I play it. I know it'll go for 90 minutes if I need it. Sometimes I get to the end of it. Sometimes I just fall back to sleep. But it's not guided meditation. I don't listen to anything. I just let it unfold. And but what I noticed, and I learned this in India in 2019, because India was so loud. I really struggled over there at first. I mean, 2 o'clock in the morning, and outside of the compound, there was just like full on street wildness, and it was just always loud over there. So I learned to embrace it. There's these guys over there, mystics or gurus, whatever you want to call them, and then there's the chanting, and so I just learned to accept it. The big thing is all my freaking life, I would fight it. I would internally fight everything. And, it was like I was in a constant battle. You'd wake up from a dream where you're fighting a war, and you're sweating and you're soaked, and You're not going to go back to sleep from that. So I've just learned to remove myself from the situation. I have a very comfy routine, and I try to share this with people with PTSD. It's you fighting it, continuing the battle, continuing the war is not the answer. It's not about rainbow skittles and unicorns and here I am, kumbaya, life is good, none of that shit. It's simply a matter of accepting that, okay, there's got to be a better way than this constant life of turmoil. And meditation and breath work tied in. And yeah, I have thoughts now. Yeah, I'm permanently in pain. My neck vertebrae replaced, shoulders vertebrae replaced, knee vertebrae replaced and revised. 25 surgeries later, I'm never not going to be in pain. But if you focus on the pain, you're always going to be in conflict. You're going to live in conflict. And if people around you are going to focus on it, well, so in my situation, I've had to remove, myself from, again, information that's going to remind me that, yeah, you're beat up, your body has expired, it's past its expiration date, your mind's good, somewhat, it has its moments, and and I can still walk around. So I walk the course with the kids every day. I hate golf carts. I love just to walk the course with them, listen to their life stories, and see if there's a possible nugget I can throw in there that'll help them. Simple as that.
Yeah, interesting. So how many years have you been meditating? Like, is it recent or?
Since 2019.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Since India. It just was. I mean, otherwise I just would never have slept on the few months trip I was over there coaching and setting up an academy and coaching some high level athletes over there. Otherwise I just would have never slept. And it just again, their meditative practice. So in this compound that this gentleman owned, there was a guru over there. Guru is his name, and he had a room. The owner of the compound had this. And it was a massive compound, hundreds of acres. Had this room, his quiet room, and I would go there and sit. And I can't sit like these.
Yeah, in the lotus position.
I've had 13 knee surgeries, and my artificial knee snapped, and I had another one put in there. So I can't even sit on the floor. I'm sitting. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to sit there with your legs crossed and in your own position. No, you can meditate anywhere.
Yeah.
You can have a moment anywhere. You can be in the middle of a golf tournament, and I love. You can be in the middle of a golf tournament, in the most stressful situation, on your second rain delay, 3 groups backed up on the par 3 tee, and you can either be pissed off, or you can just go to a quiet place, be grateful for where you are, and do a little set of box breathing.
Yeah. And
recognize the difference between being grateful and calm your autonomic nervous system. The whole fighting thing internally and externally is it's draining. Yeah. It's hard.
And that terrible situation you just explained then is quite a first world problem. It could be a lot worse. At least you've got a full stomach, and if you wanted a drink of water, you'd signal someone and they'd bring you some water. Bring me an umbrella or whatever.
And meanwhile, these poor people in Gaza are just chasing things falling out of the sky, parachutes of bags of rice, and or a bowl of soup for the week, and your candy ass little is worried about the group in front playing slow. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, and you're going to let that bother you, or the fact that, you know, yeah, it again, contextually, and what are we drawing our information from?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, so reflection is so important, and you know, and being grateful is you know, I've got so much to be grateful for. Yeah, every morning at 2:00, I feel like I look for the Greyhound bus that ran over my bed, but the reality is, all right, I'll stagger out and you know, go through my process, but it's better than the alternative.
That's right. You're alive. It's like when you live in a state of gratefulness. Like a couple of days ago, quick example, I started the day with a meditation. I've got a Neurovisor, which is an electronic device that puts you into mind states with light and sound, but I won't go into that. So I've started my day, in my opinion, fairly well. I work 2 days a week. So I'm at work, I'm in this retail store with my iPad, you know, electric pen, doing stuff that I had to do. And all of a sudden, in the door, I sort of half recognize this guy, and I look around, and then I'm seeing the back of him, and I'm thinking, it looks like my son. So I sort of, you know, stop what I'm doing, mosey around the shelves, and it's my son. And so I'm like, hey, and he's like, oh, what are you doing here? And I'm thinking, what are you doing here? You know? And so he's like, oh, we chat for a second. Then he goes, do you want to have lunch together? I'm like, sure, that'd be great. And so I said, but you've got to give me 15 minutes, you know, like, because I've got to finish this job. So he's like, oh, okay, no worries. So he was about to get in his car and leave, but he stays in the shop. So he says to me when I finish, he goes, oh, I was walking around the shop and I saw this thing that was $170. They had it on sale for $34 and I really needed it. So he was really happy. And I said, where are we going for lunch? And he goes, oh, we'll go to this place up the road. Like, oh yeah, okay. So I follow him up there. And on the way up there, I'm reaching into my little bag for my wallet. And I'm like, oh, I'm in the work car. I've left my wallet in my car. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to hit him up for lunch. And then I thought, this is actually pretty convenient, because I would have turned up at a shop to buy lunch and I wouldn't have had my wallet, and I would have been like, oh, I mean, all it would have meant is I wouldn't have eaten for another 3 or 4 hours till I got home, which was, I had plenty of water with me and everything. That was, you know, big deal. And anyway, we get there, we pull up in, you know, side by side in the cars, and I said, oh, you feel like buying old dad some lunch? He goes, I was going to buy you lunch anyway. And I knew he would have, because he's just, other times we've met, like, he's always going to shout dad. So, and then we just chatted and we talked. So it was just, and we're sitting there and we're both sort of ordering our food, and he goes, what a coincidence. And I'm like, dude, and I just said, how good is life? Like, it just, everything fell into place that, you know, and it was just, you know, half an hour out of our days, we got to see each other so unexpectedly. And I'm thinking, I started my day right. I did, you know, like, it's just, it was a small, very, very small, minor little thing, but it just brings a smile to your face and it brings contentment. You're just like, everything I need is there. Like, I don't have to stress over things. So, and you know, hey, like I say, I would have gone without my lunch, but I'd taken a snack. I'd had an apple and some other stuff I'd already eaten mid-morning, so I wasn't like ravished. But it was just, you play the game nicely and the day will flow. You know, the day knows what you need. And
and you know, and our brain is so wired negatively, and you know, you've got to manage that input, you know, the news, I mean, why would anybody sit there and just subject themselves to just a constant barrage of negativity? And you know, and parents have the responsibility to do a better job. especially with young athletes, to give them a better perspective. That not good enough. You're not trying hard enough. You're not good enough. You suck. I mean, hit the ball, little Johnny. Throw, throw a strike. I mean, really? You think little Johnny's out there? You know what? I think I'm going to throw a ball here just to mess with everybody. Really? I mean, just like think. So yeah, the whole and of course, we've all been guilty. We're all going to make mistakes. I'll make a mistake, at any given time. But to me, it's so important. The first word for me is got to be recognize. Is just recognize the moment for what it is. It's a win, it's a loss, it's a lot. We have to learn. We must learn from our failures. Failures don't define us. But you're a loser. I mean, that saying that to a kid is just a complete. I mean, I'm going to do my very best not to use a bad word here, but it's just a complete shit move. I mean, it's just there's no other word to describe it. You're a loser. You're always going to be a loser. I mean, and I see this constantly from parents. And
they're probably like putting their own
projecting
their onto the child. It's like if you sit back, there's a lot of things that we say that we're projecting onto others without realizing. It's like you hear someone say something particular, and if you stand back and you're thinking, I wonder if they have this problem, most likely.
Well, stand on the edge of a green in a junior golf tournament, or stand on in the stands at a little league or football, whatever, soccer. It's you just hear so many things that should not be said. I mean, you really think an umpire's out there doing his absolute most to piss you off? No. He's not paid. He's just trying to do it for the kids. He's just trying to get through the day.
He's on the other side of the field. He's got a different perception of what occurred than you do from the other side of the field.
You're hurling abuse at him for a call that he for better or worse. Every outcome is the correct outcome for the process applied. He decided it was a strike. It's a strike. He decided it was a foul. It's a foul. He wants to send little Johnny off. Little Johnny's going off. I mean, it's just competition has always been there. It's always been there. Sledging and abusing, but at what stage are we going to realize it's just not helping? It's at this stage for me, the experience of being an athlete for a young athlete. I mean, my experience as a young, in certain realms, was great. In certain, it wasn't great. But obviously, when I was in high school in Ballina, I was playing reserve grade rugby in year 11. Well, that just doesn't get done anymore because it's obviously stupid to send a 16, 17-year-old kid out there to get the crap beaten out of them by adults. I mean, and I know now, and I knew then, that even my own teammates had mates on the other team. The kid from high school, we'll let him run up the middle with the ball. Yeah, okay. It was, there was things that now would just not happen. I mean, there's so many things that we are better at. We're better at protecting this up here. Surf boats, they wear helmets now. We didn't wear helmets. It wasn't even a consideration. I mean, it was a badge of honor to wake up in the blue room, in an upturned surfboat after a back shoot, on a sandbar inside the boat, getting rattled around.
Yeah. Mate,
Now
it's
it's
just
the
saying
reason I'm waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. When I first joined the fire service, the lack of personal protective equipment that we had was outstanding. We had a pair of leather ankle boots, like
Yep.
the slip-ons,
Yeah.
with a normal pair of socks, a pair of denim long pants, which were like you would equate to a pair of jeans. We did
Yeah.
have a fire-resistant jacket with like
Yeah.
metal buttons on it, the old British copy of the British one, and we had this old MSA brand helmet, which is an American helmet, and we had a pair of $1 leather gardening gloves that were
Yeah.
communal, and they were kept on the truck. There was 4 pair of them
Yeah.
on each truck. You didn't get your own
Yeah.
gloves, and like if
No.
you used them at a fire, you sort of and they got wet. You brought them back to the station and you sat them out in the sun,
In the
and they went
sun.
so stiff it wasn't funny. And then the
Yeah.
next crew would come on and they'd try and put these gloves on that
Yeah.
the last crew had worn. So you didn't even get your own gloves, and it was mind-boggling. And like so, when the back of your ears started to sizzle from the heat, that was the time that you knew to get out of the building. It was too
Yeah.
hot to be in there. And then as the years evolved, we started getting more protective equipment. We started to get over trousers to put over the top of our normal trousers with the, braces, and then put your coat, and then the coats got thicker and thicker and bigger. And then now, like, there is not one piece of skin exposed anywhere. So there's a whole, it's just, yeah, back in the day, 40 years ago, just, and we call
Well,
it the good old days, but
I spent 10 years of my life as a chief, the ocean rescue chief, under a fire department here in
mhm.
America, and yeah, I mean their culture was very different and obviously I was behind the times. I just happened to need to live in that town. I'd been through I was going through a divorce, and in order to get joint custody of my boys, I had to be present in that town. So I was no longer going to be working out on tour. So I had to take a break from yes, I kept a coaching business, but the focus was I had to be present, be there. So we happened to have at that time a thing called Black Sunday up in Florida, where 10 people in the county drowned over a weekend. And surf life-saving and professional lifeguarding in that area wasn't really a thing. So I just had the experience and the ability on that particular day to do a lot of rescues unassisted, and pulled a lot of people in, and just kept doing it. And the fire department kept sending ambulances, and people were transported, and I just kept going into the water, and even at the time didn't even have a whistle to get them out.
So all of these people were just recreationally swimming and then just got into trouble, or?
It was an unfortunate scenario of events. It was the end of a very wet week in summer holidays, early summer holidays, late spring. And the series of events was a lot of rain coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and then a little tropical storm forming out there. So, and then what they call the changeover the day, because they try to have all the people come in for a week, and then on the Saturday, the week that was there prior leaves, the week that's coming in arrives. Changeover. So the people that had been there for a week had basically had 6 days of rain. So, and now you've got these tropical storm swells, and the Gulf's not massive, so the fetch isn't the separation from the waves isn't great, but there was a lot of activity out there. So they've got ground swells now. You've got very movable sandbars formed from the week of rough conditions. The wind has now gone offshore, so it is absolutely mint conditions, theoretically, for surfers, and to the eye, it's beautiful. but there was rips everywhere. So the 26 miles of beach for this particular county, I don't know, may have had 300-400 rips and no lifeguards.
Oh, wow.
So, and if you think about it, so, oh, look, the families, let's go for one last swim. Well, we haven't had a swim, so let's go down, have a swim. Oh, there's a calm area over there. There's no wave breaking there. Let's just jump in there. Well, that's the express train out into the Gulf. And so, if waves are breaking, it means there's a sandbar. Waves are not breaking, then it's deep water. Deep water runs out into the Gulf. And they were just freight training out. And so I didn't even leave the beach. I'd been down there surfing with my son. And they, in America, in that particular time and place, and still do, have a flag system. Green means the water's safe. Yellow means it's, there's a moderate conditions, currents and waves. And red means dangerous conditions. Double red means water close to public. So at the time, they'd had a lot of double. I think most of the week had been double red. It didn't matter. We're leaving. We're heading north back to Alabama, wherever, and it's not part of their culture. That it's ocean safety. It's not. They're not taught to read rip currents. Many of them don't swim. Hey, there's people out there in jeans just wanting to jump in the So that particular day, I ended up pulling about 19 people in, I believe, of which, many were transported. My, at the time, 7-year-old son, who I'd been pushing into waves. So he has his leg rope. And on double red days, if you have a leg rope attached to a board, you're okay to be up there. So I was pushing him into waves. He was surfing. We have a big old time, but somebody got into difficulty. A young couple got into difficulty near us on the other side of a sandbar that we'd been surfing on, and we'd been catching, waves off the left side of a sandbar. On the right side, there was a really bad rip going out, and we could hear screams on the other side of it. So I basically, sent him to take a right-hand wave across the sandbar into the channel, get off the back of the board, point the board out to sea, and have them hold onto each other over the top of the boards. He did that. I porpoised across the sandbar and, swam out to them and just went out and around and brought them back in over the sandbar and into shore. But nobody at the time in that area was really teaching that. I was still rowing surf boats, but our surf boat crew was based on the other side of the country in California. And so we didn't have really, there were beach attendants and who had somewhat, and anybody who's a decent surfer knows how to rescue people and knows how to read the water, knows how to go out in a rip and come in a way you don't go out across the sandbar through the white water. So there was surfers around, but it wasn't really a water safety culture. So after that, there was a particularly a newscaster on that particular day in a beach a little further east of us drowned, and he was very prominent national news anchor. So these beaches were then dubbed at that time America's most dangerous beaches. And so one thing led to another, and I was tasked by the county commissioners to, through the United States Life Saving Association, to do it, be part of a study, come up with a plan, solve the problem. And that was part of, again, the adaptive performance state then for me was the early stages of recognizing solution-oriented strategies to solve that problem, and then train. I think my first crew was like 32 lifeguards with not 1 minute of experience of being lifeguards to become professional lifeguards across 26 miles of beach. So you imagine the whole northern beaches of Sydney.
Well, that's the Gold Coast. We've got about 26 miles. I don't know exactly what you're looking at.
With 6 towers roving in, and 4 ATVs, 1 chief, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Wow.
And try solve that problem. So the
Slightly
next year,
understaffed.
and I think the first budget was $600,000 for the
Wow.
whole for the year.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have joint custody of my boys. I put my hand up and said, you know what, I'll do it, boys. Count me in. That way I can live in this town and be here and have joint custody of my boys. So yeah, that was an interesting 10 years.
Interesting. All right. You did send me not long ago a link to your new website, which I just didn't have time to click on and look at. What's on there? Like, is it about your coaching or?
So a sports psychologist, partner, friend of mine. He's just a brilliant sports psychologist. Just the way he speaks to people, the way he treats people. Bill Nelson. He and I have joined forces for the future. I'm still coaching for the next year. This was week 1 of the 2025-26 academic year over here. So I'm going to coach at the International Junior Golf Academy for the next year. But after that, and now we've created a portal, and it's called the Mind Management Group. And I sent you a link to where we're building the inventory of knowledge now. I spent my summer writing. It's my new passion, is being a not a qualified writer. is writing from experience and then fact checking the best I can. But yeah, we're building an inventory, so it's going to be like 3 tiers. There'll be an inventory of blogs, of just topics, every single topic I've written about over summer. And as I said, there was no more enjoyable place than sitting on the balcony overlooking Mollymook Beach. Yep. We're just enjoying the sounds of nature and writing. So over the last 10 years, I've taken a massive amount of notes and just in one particular part of it, I had almost 3,000 completed post-tournament reviews that the athletes answer a series of questions I give them, approximately 12 questions about their experience of the tournament, their preparation, their actuality of the tournament. So I took all that information and basically on an Excel spreadsheet prioritized it. What are the blocks? What are the things that are the inhibitors of young athletes? And from that, I've just built an inventory of answers.
Oh, cool.
And I will basically spend the next however long I'm standing upright, if I can, continuing down this path. It's just it is amazing to me that the information isn't out there, more so, and so much of it is to dispel misinformation. So we will be the Mind Management Group, but I can still be found at the International Junior Golf Academy, or I guess if you send a message on Instagram to me, I don't even know what it is. I think it's Gary.Wise it's GaryWise.MPC or something like that.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, you can find it. But yeah. I also sent you a link to our wait list, because the thing about it is, there's 3 tiers, and the first will be the information. We're just going to put so much information out there for people to read. Secondly, there'll be a question and answer part and in every blog that I've written, I've put 3 questions on there for you to answer yourself. Like, it's like one of those self-study certification courses. And so when people have questions, if one person has that question, obviously an infinite amount of others had the question. So all the questions I've been asked, and I think I have still got 100 more subjects at least that I can write about. And I'm just trying to slowly, work my way through these. These questions that I've had over the years, I have on my phone this app called Keep Notes, and every day the kids, I generally spend each day with between 12 and 16 kids, not all at once, just walking the fairways. It's the great thing about where I am is, what other place in the world can you literally spend your day walking the golf course, not worrying about pace of play as far as having to be with people who are paying green fees, etc. Basically, we have a private golf course where our number one thing is to coach. And I have a coaching team that I'm part of, very honored to be part of a coaching team that the four of us have been together for a while. And I have a young Australian coach that I coach with who's brilliant at technical competency. That's his forte. He loves that. He loves the science of the golf swing, and he's brilliant at it. And then we have two Colombians who have their own unique skill sets. One is he's just a great people person, and the other one is brilliant at he was a very good player, and he's just very good at demonstrating and having that ability to interact. So the four of us work together coaching kids on a team, but our particular four, we stay together. We're a pod, and the way the system works is three pods. And our pod, I've never had a more enjoyable coaching experience than with these guys, because we're like-mindedness. We're very connected to the task, and there's no ego involved. I have,
nice.
It's just, so my part of it is just simply the mind management and strategy and course skills and life skills. And, as a performance coach, to be able to trust my partners to do their job and to be able to execute my job without, being micromanaged or even anybody it's just brilliant. So, yeah, but the only reason for me it's getting difficult is the Florida heat. As I said, I had three TIA strokes, and the ultimate outcome of the India trip was I got a wicked dose of hepatitis A, and it took 3 days in ICU for my liver enzyme numbers to come down to 100 times the dangerous level. So I think 45 is you go to hospital. It took 3 days to come down to 4,500.
Wow.
So it took a toll on my autonomic nervous system. And then I went back to training maybe a little too soon, lack of self-awareness, and it caused 3 strokes. And but now, I'm upright now. Life is good. So every day is a blessing, and I enjoy it. So yeah, they can reach out through Instagram message, or on Facebook. But as I said, I know everybody on there, so the message is the thing. But yeah, the mind management link I sent you is where people can go on a waiting list. At the moment, I know we're just so busy. Taking new clients is not a priority. But putting the information out there is. So yeah, while I may not be able to take new people, I really enjoy sharing the information. And I think one of there was a philosophical saying is, the ultimate gift is to give away what you learn. And I just love the opportunity to learn, talk to people like yourself, and encourage our generation. Even if you're struggling, hey, give back, and you'll automatically feel better. Phil, our friend Phil is just a prime example of that. And Trunis Goggins, met Trunis recently, and same thing. Thanks to you guys and you're in the group that you met. I mean, what a great group of people.
Yeah, it's great, the networking of the whole thing and meeting other people and sharing, and the more I find, the more that you give and teach and that sort of stuff, the more you learn yourself anyway. So it's
absolutely.
All right. All right, well, we'll need to wind it up. So the website that you just talked about will be in the show notes. I'll
Yeah.
put your Instagram link in there. People can look more into it and contact, etc. That's great. Thank you for your time, Gary. Absolutely
Thank
enjoyed
you,
it.
mate.
And yeah, we'll have to do it again because it's or when in a year or so when you're thinking of moving back to Australia, we'll have to definitely catch up.
Well, and it's definitely going to I want to spend more time at home. I know I have to spend time over here. This is where again the carrot's still over here, and the young athletes that I've that have given me this opportunity. I'm thankful to the kids. Honestly, they're the ones they've given me this. I mean, I'm just happy to share it. It really is. It's fortunate to be able to give back, but I'm really just appreciative of what my daily lessons from the kids. They teach me more than I teach them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doug.
mate.
I appreciate you. Cheers, mate.
Well, we're at the end of another thought-provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever-reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition. It will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.